206 flags in total, one for each of the nations vying for a gold medal here in London. Welcome to this week's special health show to coincide with the Olympics. Pushing one's body to extremes might be the name of the game, but among more than 10,000 athletes and nearly 1,000 doctors on call day and night. Stay with us as we investigate some of the health challenges that emerge when sporting champions hit the world stage. Coming up in this week's show, to fast or not to fast. With the Olympics falling in the holy month of Ramadan, Muslim athletes have been faced with a tough choice. Next, a victory to trump them all. Paralympic champion and double amputee Oscar Pistorius has already won by having the chance to compete against able-bodied athletes in this year's Games. And finally, sex and sports. As the Olympic Village distributes more free condoms to competitors than ever before, we ask whether there's any scientific evidence behind the idea that athletes should abstain from sexual activity before a competition. For the first time in 32 years, the Summer Olympics coincides with the Muslim month of Ramadan. It's 8:54 here in the East London Mosque, and the moment when religious followers break the day-long fast. I'm joined by Dr. Muhammad Bari, chairman of the East London Mosque Trust. Can you tell me, does everyone here have to fast?
Yes, it's for every able-bodied Muslim, adult Muslim, but there are exceptions. Those who cannot fast for health reasons, there is exception for them, pregnant women, and those who are traveling, but they have to cover this after the month of Ramadan.
Thank you very much. Obviously, fasting is both a physical and mental challenge for many, but it's a particular dilemma for the athletes competing here in the Summer Games. This next report takes a look at the health consequences of this very personal decision.
(10 p.m) and the Egyptian weightlifting team finishes training. The session took place after sunset to allow the athletes, most of them Muslims, to eat before the physical exertion. This year's Olympics are taking place with the holy month of Ramadan in full swing. It's a headache for competitors who have to juggle their faith with their desire for sporting success.
I won't fast on the day of the competition. I'll observe Ramadan every day apart from that. The Mufti said that if the fast lasts more than 16 hours, you don't have to do it.
With Ramadan coming in the height of summer, Muslims must go 16 hours without food and drink. It's a routine that's hard to reconcile with high-level sport, and some countries such as Egypt, Algeria and Morocco have allowed their athletes to postpone their fasting.
It's impossible for us to fast during the Olympics. We're competing in 5 different disciplines. Fencing first, then we have an hour's break before the swimming and the rest. You use up a lot of energy during the day.
Fasting can have several effects on athletes, including dehydration, low blood sugar levels or hypoglycemia, and disruption to the body's natural cycles. Those who do fast eat before sunrise, which can tire out the body. This has ended with sportsmen injured or forced to retire from competition. Some 3,500 Muslims are taking part in the London Games. Olympic authorities refused to change the dates to take account of Ramadan, but they did make some concessions.
The restaurant in the Olympic Village is open 24 hours a day, so people can eat at any time.
Some athletes have decided to stick strictly to the fast. For this Palestinian competing in the judo, it was a simple choice.
Sport is sport. Whatever season we compete in, we're ready to fight, even if it's Ramadan.
Some Olympians say Ramadan gives them extra strength, that the psychological well-being it instills helps them improve performances and achieve new personal bests.
London 2012 is as much about the Paralympics as it is about the Olympics, and wheelchair tennis is just one of 21 sports with medals up for grabs. Here we can see it in action. The major difference in rules being that the ball can bounce twice here instead of once. The Paralympics cater for physically challenged athletes, but one particular star has stolen the show this year. South Africa's Oscar Pistorius has become the first double amputee to run in the Olympic Games.
They call him the Blade Runner because of the carbon fiber prosthetic blades he's wearing. Born without a fibula or calf bones, Oscar Pistorius was amputated when he was less than a year old. Still, at 16, he signed up in an athletics team and eventually became an icon for disabled athletes. He's now one of the best South African champions. So good, he was selected for the regular London Olympic Games, a first in history.
I'm so excited, and the chance to represent my country is a blessing. And it's a lot of pressure. It's one thing qualifying, but it's a completely different thing being there and competing to that high standard. So very excited, and hopefully I'm going to do my best.
The runner had trained intensively in the north of Italy before the Games. His goals? Defending his Paralympic world records on 100, 200 and 400 meters and winning a medal next to the able-bodied athletes in the Olympics on 400 meters and the 100-meter relay.
The final is going to be extremely tough, and the guys that are running at the top are running already, low 44 seconds, which is a second quicker than I've ever run on the 400.
Although his achievements are extraordinary, Pistorius has stirred controversy. Some believe that his 12,000-euro blades, much lighter than legs, give him an advantage over other athletes.
The goal is to allow disabled athletes to get the same capacities as able-bodied athletes. But if the material makes disabled athletes more efficient, then they would have been without their handicap. Then it's like taking a drug.
That alleged advantage is why Pistorius was first banned from certain competitions. In 2008, the ban was lifted, yet the athlete still failed to participate in the Beijing Games because he didn't run fast enough. 3 years later, he won a medal in the Athletics World Championships, and this summer, he was one of the stars of the Games.
The Olympics has brought out a festive atmosphere across the city, especially here around me in London's Hyde Park. One would imagine quite a different setting inside the Olympic Village, but apparently not. Before the Games even begun, one record had been broken: the number of free condoms distributed to the athletes. 150,000 or 15 per competitor. Safe sex is of course a good thing, but does it matter if it happens before or after the competition?
I am the greatest.
The world's most famous advocate of abstinence before competition. Boxing great and Olympic gold medalist Muhammad Ali reportedly went without sex for 6 weeks before a big fight. Yet the idea of banning training in the bedroom hasn't won over all elite athletes.
I don't think making love's going to affect 1.5 months' worth of preparation, but if it lasts too long, then it could be tiring, so I think it has to be done with moderation.
This boxing centre in Paris's outer suburbs has produced multiple world champions. Coaches can't force their boxers to abstain, but they can issue strong advice.
In my opinion, it's better to abstain. A month before is perhaps too much, but I really think the week before a fight, it's better to avoid all sexual activity to be totally 100% ready for the fight.
The idea stems from a long-standing myth that sexual frustration makes people more aggressive and that ejaculation saps testosterone from the body. But there's no evidence sex, even 12 hours before competition, reduces physical ability. Boxer Frank Message, however, believes the benefits could be psychological. The former world champion rules out sex up to 2 weeks before a fight. One of the reasons, he says, is that abstinence sharpens his focus.
During competition or the final phase of my preparation, I concentrate on one thing and one thing only, and that's my opponent, not my partner.
London Games organisers aren't taking any risks. They've issued 150,000 free condoms to athletes inside the village, prompting fears that the 2012 Games might not only inspire a generation, but create one. Meanwhile, doctors working within the athletes' quarters say they're neither for or against sex before a competition.
It all depends on the individual athletes. So some athletes may find having sex the night before enhances their performance, whereas other athletes may find it the reverse. And the worst thing to do is to change the athletes' routines.
There's one thing which men, women, coaches and doctors tend to agree on. Exercise boosts sex drive, meaning high-performance athletes often have a high libido. that brings us to the end of this week's special health show from the Olympics. We leave you from London's new cable car, one of the best ways to view the Olympic grounds for those who don't have a ticket. Thanks for joining us here on Frontline Gap. We look forward to seeing you, as always, next time.